Formula 1 have confirmed that in 2026, 11th team being General Motors / Cadillac will be joining the grid to get us up to 22 drivers. And here's all the details. Now, Formula 1 have made a statement saying that General Motors / Cadillac, one of their brands that they'll be repping within this team, will be joining the grid at 2026, getting us back up to 11 teams. Now, Andretti, Cadillac and General Motors have had a big motivation of being in F1 for a while. Michael Andretti, who's the leader of the Andretti group, has wanted to be in F1 for a while and has had that motivation and belief they can get into it. And this motivation by Andretti since the start is basically the reason why this 11th team has come in. In any sort of obstacles in the way that F1 have put there, they have jumped over to try and make this happen, including not having him in charge of the team. And now it's good to say this is different to the Andretti F1 team in a whole. Andretti had their bid rejected in January, which is upon investigation in America right now, and there's not really been a defined response reason, but we've had a few different murmurs from Formula 1 executives around the decision, namely being that they didn't really like Michael Andretti as he is quite opinionated and has rubbed a lot of people in Formula 1 the wrong way. And we've also heard things such as having an 11th team at the start was going to be too much financial problems for F1, and they wanted to look at it at a later date, looking more at 2028 when Andretti told them they were going to make their own engine. Now, this is the thing with the whole move of Cadillac. They're coming in 2026. They will have a car for that year, but they will not be able to produce an engine and make a works team just yet, and that will be pushed back. It was rumored to be 2028, but now it's looking at more where the century is, so looking at 2030. And it looks like they will be going with a Ferrari engine, which hasn't been confirmed as of yet, but it does seem the most viable option for them to use for the first 2 years of the car. Now, Formula 1 as well didn't accept Andretti because they didn't want a team using Formula 1 as a sponsorship deal, as they felt that Andretti would have been gaining popularity basically from Formula 1 rather than the other way round. And they wanted a team that was going to come in and be competitive, like we've seen Audi coming in 2026 and state that they're going to do that. Now, with Cadillac coming in, it is seen that that won't really do that because Cadillac is a big brand in senses, but also it does seem like Formula 1 as a whole have been pushed into this decision, maybe by the US investigation on their decision to reject Andretti at the start. But also Formula 1 are definitely opening up with the news that Renault will be taking out their engine and they want more engine providers. So the fact that this team have coming in, they're spending all this money, reportedly around $450 million, to be the 11th team on the grid and be a works team in the future, they kind of had to take it. They really needed this opportunity and it is important. Now, first of all, the big news is that Michael Andretti will have maybe a little bit of connection with the team, but won't be fully connected. Now, he did tweet about the result in the end, being very happy, and I do think he will have some sort of correlation with the team and Andretti will overall, but it won't be public, at least at the start, because obviously they've been told Cadillac and not Andretti, which will definitely be interesting to see how that connection upholds in the future. The next big question is, will this open up Formula 1 for more teams in the future? Now, the reported agreement is that all the teams have signed this contract in Formula 1, which can go up to 12 teams, and obviously this being the 11th team, they could still have room for another one. Now, Formula 1 didn't really want Andretti in to be started, let's say that first of all, and in some ways they may have been pushed into this Cadillac deal, but it's also good for different markets. It definitely will exploit that American market, which even though Haas are an American team, don't really feel like an American team and American culture, which this reportedly will bring. And for example, Toyota could be a really big team that come into the future if their technical partnership with Haas leaves them wanting more, and Formula 1 will always accept another works team, end of all. Now, overall, the last big question is if the car going to be ready for 2026, because that is a year from now, year and a half. They've really got to get it up to gear, which is going to be a lot harder for them, and I do expect that probably the first few years, 26 to 28, maybe even longer, that the team will struggle. Cadillac and General Motors have got bigger in the last few years to try and make this move happen, but they will probably need to have more engineers, more people back there making the car ×3 of what they have right now to keep up, especially from a works perspective when they start making their own engines in the future. And with Andretti not really being in the visual picture, it's going to go to Dan Tauris, who will be the main guy that you see. He's the owner of General Motors, does have a part ownership in Andretti as well, but it's mostly his company that will be operating this system, and he wants to keep it an American team. We've heard they want to keep most of their in-house people American, but more importantly, they want to have the 2 drivers be American at least on the start. Now, 2026 is obviously a year ahead, so we've got to think about next season as well, and you know, who knows what can happen in that year, especially the lower brackets of Formula 2 and Formula 3. But it has been reported that Andretti before did want American drivers, and Colton Herta is the #1 pick reportedly that Dan Towers also really likes. Now, Colton Herta is 24, he races in the IndyCar, and he's been doing all right out there, but he doesn't have a super license. He is close to getting it, so obviously with that extended a period amount of time, he might be able to get it, but if he doesn't, then they will have to look elsewhere. And if they want to look at other American drivers, you expect Logan Sargent to realistically come up again, being one of the only American drivers recent years in F1, and Jack Crawford's been doing quite well in F2 this year, but a year out of action could see different things happen. Of course, we never know what's going to happen in a year's time, and maybe a big opportunity comes up. Someone like Yuki maybe gets off the grid and they want to pick him up, or someone else around that sort of level. So it's a bit early to probably speculate on drivers, but they do want to make it an American brand first and foremost. Now, overall, there's going to be a bit of pushback on this, I think, from a lot of people, especially considering Andretti got rejected first of all, and maybe Formula 1 have been pushed into this, but I do think 11th team is really good. It gives more opportunities to drivers who will be pushed out of the grid, and I do think Formula 1 has turned into more of a sport with less paid drivers, in a sense, even though obviously they're all rich, and more people that actually deserve to be there. I also think this is a continuation of the effort to try and grow the sport in Formula 1 in America. We've seen obviously a lot more races happen there now with the Vegas Grand Prix happening. It's been a big effort to try and grow the sport in America, which is working, I think, overall. Now, I do think the investigation around Andretti not being let in will probably die down a lot in America, especially with this move, and I do think that it could be a really good thing of Cadillac coming in, being another team to grow the sport in different countries, but give more drivers an opportunity. But the hope is obviously they become a proper works team and they bring a lot to the sport, because if they do end up being near the bottom of the grid, it's probably going to be a bit annoying. But sometimes you just got to take them risks. Overall, I'm quite happy with the move, but let me know in the comments what you guys think about the whole thing overall, and do you think they're going to add a lot to the sport?